Welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for joining me today. We are here again doing Technicals Tuesday, testing Tim. No, just Technical Tuesdays. And today was a deep dive. Over in the Stock Squad Patreon, I was going through a ton of charts for people, covering some big winners and some plays that were really a surprise to the downside. Matter of fact, let me turn off my Discord right now so it's not beeping. Okay, today there's a number of things that I've come to this table with Tim to accomplish. One, I want to give really good guidance on the S&P 500 because we've been calling it correctly, but we've got to get through this week, and I'm going to tell you what it will take for the S&P to get through this week and remain on a bullish track, because it could end here. I'm also going to do the same thing for Bitcoin. And let me just tell you guys that I mentioned last week, and I want to make I had a powwow with Tim before we went live. Tim, we covered how to take everything inside of our minds, and distill it, simplify it, and deliver it to the people with actionable content. Because the fact is that when this video camera goes off, Tim and I are going to go make some money. The goal of this show, the goal of this hour that we're sharing together, is that you guys make some money. This is the Stocks with Josh show. Tim is a guest he's over on his own channel called Investing Bros. And I do want you to take some time to go over there and subscribe. In particular, one of the things that we're going to be covering today is the Lux Algo indicator, because for many people that do not have a trade plan, they don't have one. They are just listening to the news. Some of them are listening to YouTubers. Some are looking at charts that I give. They do not have a comprehensive trade plan. And the longer I've done this and gone out and met folks, I've been challenged to think to myself, how could I help people with the most elementary investment and trade plan? Now, I'm not a financial advisor, and so I'm here only to educate and inform. Lux Algo, which there is a link for in the top pinned comment, is a way where you could know, all right, well, here's an approximate place I could set my stop loss. Here's an approximate place that I could get into this if it came down to it. And if we get to the top of the range, when everyone else is hyping it up, Lux Algo will tell you, no, it's going to lose some steam. Here's where you want to begin to scale out of your position. I covered a bunch of that today in the Discord. Tim, you want to say hi to the folks, and then we're going to dive into some things.
Yeah. What is going on, everybody? Good to be back on the channel. I saw a couple people in chat asked, last week we were on the channel, and the next day my son had a medical emergency. He is completely fine now. My 11-month-old son had a seizure.
Oh, no.
But it turns out babies, when they overheat, they do that. But anyone from the Josh community who heard that and was praying for me and my family, thank you so much. My son is 100% better. He's back to his normal self, no fever. So praise God. And thank you guys for your love and your prayers for that.
Hey, for whatever, listen, this is a stock show, and we're here to learn how to make money and be better stewards. In particular, I guide my life off of a number of verses, Tim. One of them is a verse that says to redeem the time. What time are we talking about that needs to be redeemed? The time that you guys are spending trading time for money. That's the time that you need to redeem. Now, why am I talking scripture here at the beginning of the show? Is because I thought I would mention that Tim is a believer as well. And there's something that we share in common is a love for the charts and a love for Jesus Christ. So let's take a step back. I want to take people into the S&P 500 because here's been the narrative. When we were at 5,200 on the SPX, I said that we were going to roll over and we were going to have a correction because we hadn't had one, and too many months had gone by without a correction. Markets correct. It's normal. It's healthy. And they build support to go higher, and so it was due a correction, and I said we should be under 6%. We were. Now, if we're going to remain in the bull run, we need to kind of be on track to push higher back into our ascending channel, which I've shown you guys, where we would ultimately move as high as 5,500. Okay, now that is a premise. It's a bullish bias. We don't know if that's going to happen, but there's tests along the way that would tell us whether or not we are on track. And I'm just going to lay it out for you guys right now on the S&P 500. This week, the S&P's homework, the hurdle it has to jump to pass and to go forward is that we've got to close above 5,200. That's the hurdle that I need to see the markets continue with to believe that next week we're going to continue to push higher. I don't mind volatility down. I don't mind a couple days that are red, but we then have to finish this week strong with a push back above 5,200. Let me just take you guys really quickly into the charts and show that to you. All right. So you can actually see that everything is on track to my prediction. Last week's candle has this incredible, amazing bullish tail. Whenever you've got a little wick on top and a long tail on the bottom, it tells you that there were buyers that were just waiting to load the boat. Now we've come up. Now I told you guys, and if you listen carefully and if we're making progress, because this is a class, I told you guys well before we got here that when we eventually reversed, that the big test was going to come at 5,200. That's the big test. Now, right now we're at 5187. And for me to be confident that we're going to continue this trend back into the channel, we've got to get over one of the previous areas of rejection, which was right over here. Okay, this was the peak. This was the previous peak. Now, if we're not careful, we're just going to form basically a head and shoulders pattern. So we want to see it break over this previous candle right here, which was right at 5180. Today, we're kissing 5187, but we need to wait until this candle closes. We want to see it push through and close above 5,200. We want to see the next candle open above 5,200, and that would give me a ton of confidence that we are on a rocket ship going higher. Tim, you got any thoughts on the overall market? What's been going on with some of the data that we're expecting this week? Let me get you back on. All right, 2 windows. Let's go.
No, I don't know if I have too much data. Obviously, this past week when we saw the job numbers come out lower, the non-farm payroll come out lower than expected, that was bullish. In the crypto world, there's definitely things like banks continue to show signs of weakness. That explains why people would want to take their money into Bitcoin and maybe some altcoins as well. But ultimately, when it comes to the S&P 500, I'm mostly just leaning on the technicals. I'm not surprised by this most recent move because I think that the charts were calling for this pullback. And I think it's interesting you put that 5,200 as that level of kind of let's decide if we go higher or not. That's exactly where we rejected today on the 4-hour chart. Pretty much kissed that 5,200 right on the mouth and then fell back down to the downside.
There was an earlier comment, Tim. It said, how many think that Josh is going to interrupt Tim? And I'm going to tell you right now, there's 100% likelihood. So here's my first interruption. First of all, mad respect for Tim. It's why he's on this show, because I respect what he's laying down. So that 5,200, I'm not afraid of it fighting that level. It's going to fight that level throughout the week. We just have to, 30 minutes before close on Friday, we got to get above it. You have to know that I'm going to have laser eyes on that so I can come back over the weekend and let you guys know what the biggest profit setup going into next week is going to be, because that's where it's going to be decided. Now, in another focal point that I want you guys to have is that Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, Tim, we're going to get consumer confidence. Now, this is one of the few data points that is actually considered leading indicator. Most of everything else that we get in the market is a lagging indicator, except for consumer confidence. Because if consumer confidence is very, very low, it means that people are freaking out about this economy. They're not doing very well. They're tightening their belt. They're slowing their spending. And all the big boys like Amazon, Google, Apple, Netflix, they're going to get a smaller piece of the pie. They're going to come up short in the next earnings. People are going to go risk off. Now, I've got a theory. That's the idea. Okay, that's the idea. But here's the theory that I have right now. And this is where we get into choppy markets where bad news becomes good news. And, this doesn't happen all the time. So we run most of the year where bad news is bad news. And we get bad news, the markets retract. But we get into this weird stage, and I'm feeling it right now, where bad news becomes good news. And so the bad news that the market might interpret is that this is softness in the economy, and that the Fed's going to see this data point, and that the Fed's going to give the cuts that have been priced in for the long-term growth. And so I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Friday's going to be a big day. How the market closes, I would expect that when that data point comes out, I mean, I'll call this a hard prediction. On this show, I'm not afraid to make predictions. I don't get it all right. Matter of fact, in a moment, I'm going to comment on a couple that surprised me that I was leaning bullish towards that didn't go bullish. But here's a prediction going into Friday. The markets are going to get that data point and they're going to flash down. They're not going to go up. But then, as we get later into the afternoon, I'm going to be watching for a late day confusing bull rally to overcome that pullback. Any thoughts on that, Tim?
No, that it makes a lot of sense because in the crypto world, we have a chart that we'll look at. It's called the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. And ultimately, what you do with this index is when you start to tick into greed, you start to get a little bit what some people call defensive, or another way, you're starting to look for levels to take profit and maybe even short the market. But then when you get into the fear, meaning a lot of people are afraid and they're kind of thinking the price is going to dip further, now you're starting to look for entry positions, maybe take profit on your shorts or entry positions long. This goes back to the history of investing. You know, I've only been investing and trading for a handful of years, but in studying the history of it, one of my favorite teachers I've come across is Richard Wyckoff, the Wyckoff method, where he talks about the manipulative movements of powerful players in the space that control media for sure, where they will use bad news situations to scare the average investor into selling so that they can buy up bulk where they want to. And then they'll use times where they want to sell to print very good information, very good positive charts so that everyone thinks, okay, this is the perfect time to buy. And ultimately, you just become the exit liquidity of the big boys. So I will call myself at times a little bit of a contrarian, meaning when it's too good to be, when the news is too positive, I start to feel a little bit more bearish, meaning I think the price is going down. When everything's getting really bad, I start to ask the question, what are we missing here? Is this a reason to be buying right now because everyone feels scared to enter those buy orders? Manipulation is a thing that happens definitely in the crypto space, but still in the stock world as well from time to time.
All right. Thank you, Tim. I agree with that. And I'm going to do a micro interpretation of what Tim was just saying. This is what we've got. And I beat these points through so that they can be crystal clear, because your guys' knowledge when you walk away is what's important to me. I went to New York, Tim, recently, and it thrilled me when people were sharing with me things that I taught. So we're going to keep doing that. We are in a distribution phase at the moment. That's the assumption that I'm giving, okay? So we've had a huge markup phase, 2023, 2024. When the Fed cuts, the first cuts planned for September, the market will go down, it will not go up. We're expecting a minimum of a 20% cut, but 2 times in the last decade, we got a 50%, a 20% fall. 2 times in the last decade, we got a 50% fall. So we know the markets are going to be pulling back, but how are they going to behave in the months preceding September before that cut is officially given? Well, they're going to behave exactly the way they behaved today, where we saw incredible, insane drops and pops. In particular, Tim, NVIDIA is one that is just shocking. I mean, we pulled all the way down, 880 to 885, all the way down to below 850, and then recaptured that entire price range. This is what is typically happening. It is the large institutions doing some very heavy big bag sells, which shock the market down, and then all of the smaller buys levels slowly push it back up. And every single time it gets up, you're going to see these high volatile moves down. I saw it across the board. We saw it with Disney. We saw it with Palantir. We saw it with NVIDIA. We've seen it with I think a little bit with Tesla. A ton of companies out there. And this is a wider price action. It's expected. And I'm going to remind you guys that we're going to continue to see it. And I'm even going to go as far as to say, if you have an eye to be prepared and watch for more of these ridiculous drops or these ridiculous pops, you can make some very, very big plays. I got a question here. Okay, well, we're going to get into Bitcoin. Earlier, somebody had asked about the Lux Algo timeframes, the best timeframes to trade. And I'm going to give a brief comment. I'd love to get your thoughts as well as Tim. Lux Algo, there isn't a better time frame to trade, but you have to understand how time frames work. You know, if you're working on a daily time frame, you may not open and close your position looking at the daily time frame. You might open and close that position in the course of days or even a week. If you're looking at an hourly time frame, from anywhere hourly, 4 hour, or hourly and below, you might open and close your position that same day. It works on all the time frames. It has more to do with your particular style of trading or how closely you can sit and watch it. If you don't have the ability, and that's a good point, if you don't have the ability to sit there and watch it all day long, and you're at work, you're at Amazon, you're a distributor ever at Amazon, you know, you're running schedules and dispatching trucks, you aren't going to want to do a lot of intraday trading, not necessarily. You want to look at the big picture and try to catch the bigger waves over the course of days. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I actually, we had this question yesterday from one of our member streams, our trading member streams over in Investing Bros. The rule of thumb that I like to use when it comes to what time frame you're using, imagine whatever position you're looking to get into, you probably have somewhere between 12 to 24 candles of relative, like you have that long of time frame before everything changes. So if we're talking about the daily chart, you could have a week to potentially up to 3 weeks before the narrative can flip. If we're on the 4-hour chart, we're talking about, you know, somewhere between 24 to 48 hours. If we're on the hourly chart, we're talking about half a day to a full day. If you're down on the 1-minute chart, we're talking about less than half an hour, you know? So every single chart can be utilized. But when you're looking at the daily chart, if I'm looking at the daily chart and saying, all right, I'm looking at the next week and a half to 3 weeks, well, that's a lot of time to sit and be patient, but also something could change between now and then. Like everything right now could be saying the market should be moving to the upside, but all of a sudden next Thursday, we get hit with a bad piece of news that says the market should go down. I need to be ready to flip my thought process. But that's my rule of thumb is 12 to 24 candles, whatever time frame you're looking at, you have that time frame to see your prediction play out or decide if you need to change your trade based off of new information.
Thank you, Tim. I think that's good, sound direction. I got a shout out, Stock Up with Larry Jones in the house today. Everybody give a hi to Larry. And Larry's giving some direction. He said, stop interrupting Tim, Josh. But it's with a little bit of a laughy face. He says, people, we got to get this show out and we got a short amount of time. I got asked back here, Tim, about which Lux Algo package am I using. I'm using the premium. It's the middle package. It gives me all the tools. I think that in general, you want to get the overlays and signals, and there's a couple in there that you need, and I found them in the premium. I'm not as deep into the Lux Algo as Tim. That's actually why we have him. One of the reasons why we have him on the show is so he can kind of give us a little bit more information on some of the features and benefits. But I also, at the same time, I want to keep it super simple. For some of you, you turn on that Lux Algo and you think, okay, what do I do? There's a bunch of clouds and lines. What you should do is, first of all, do a little due diligence, decide if you're bullish on a stock, and then look at where you're at in proportion to your buy zone and your sell zone, right? Mm-hmm. And Tim, let's go briefly into, can you pull up Mara? we're going to talk briefly about the miners, and already the energy of the show is just shifting me around. I wanted to go right to Bitcoin, but let's talk briefly about the miners. If you could pull up Mara, and then I'm going to talk about Mara because I do have an opinion, and someone just asked me about the miners. I actually have a pretty strong opinion on the miners right now, so I'll give that to you. But here's what I wanted you to do. Just show them the if you bought at the bottom, where you'd sell at the top scenario. Let me throw up your screen.
The ticker for Mara, what is that one?
MARA. Yep, MARA.
Oh, okay, so it's
Marathon Digital Holdings. Correct.
Okay, all right. Good to know. All right, here we go.
We know that Tim's got fresh eyes on this, guys.
Yeah, I've not looked at this chart before. I'm going to make this a little simpler here. This is how I use it, but I'm going to take off two things and come to a very simplistic version of what you can get when you purchase Lux Algo. So, this is the signals and overlays, one of the ones that you get when you purchase the premium package. And ultimately, for any beginner in trading, I do encourage you to continue to do research and learn more about technical analysis. But this tool right here is a very, very simple. It tells you when to buy and the possibility of how strong that buy signal or signal should be. And then it'll give you a take profit suggested area and then a stop loss area. So if you guys are newer to trading, I'm sure Josh is on the same boat as I am. We preach stop losses heavily just in case your TA ends up being wrong. You don't want to lose all of your money in a big, big pullback. But that's what the cool thing about Lux Algo is.
Tim, I'm gonna take a micro break, just a second interruption, guys. It's just a second interruption. Well, are we halfway through the show? No, we're not halfway through the show. Guys, stop losses. I met you in New York. I saw your portfolios. Some of you had ChargePoint and Neo and stocks like that from back in 2021 when they were hot. We're in 2024 and they're not. And so, this is going to help some of you. I promise you, if you simplify your trade plan and you actually have a trade plan and you incorporate the wisdom of a stop loss, which this gives you, you may have the opportunity of making more money than just a buy and hold strategy. Tim, please continue on.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like I said, you got to have your stop losses, but that's what's really cool. And it's going to be abbreviated. TP, in case you guys are wondering, stands for take profit. SL stands for stop loss. It gives you two different ones. So you have your more aggressive take profits up higher, your less aggressive take profits lower. And then same thing with stop loss, your aggressive stop loss lower, your less aggressive stop loss higher. Ultimately, what you're looking at here, the numbers will signal the mathematical equation for how powerful they think the move's going to be. You don't need to worry about that. Ultimately, especially if you see a 2, 3, or 4, you should be good to go. Every now and then ones are powerful too, but I'm getting kind of into the weeds a little bit. This is a buy signal. It's green. It just says it's a number 3. It says it's gonna be a powerful wave. If I see this, when this flashed, I would set up my trade. Let me go ahead and grab a tool here on TradingView. I would have entered a trade right here where we had a flash of a buy. You guys can see here this box up top, the take profit. I'm a trader who I like to be a little less risky with my take profits. So I'm going to put it right here. The take profit is going to be coming up to about $25 here on Marathon. And then I can go ahead and set my stop loss. And in this case, I'm the type of trader who I like to keep my stop losses to trading take profits at a 3-to-1 ratio, meaning in this case, if my take profit hits, I'm going to get a 35.96, we'll call it 36% profit on this trade. That means I don't want to risk any more than 12%. So in that case, I'm going to come here, I'm going to put in 12%. That falls within the less risky stop loss area. It does mean the price would stop me out sooner, but ultimately I take that and all of a sudden I have my trade set up. I know where I'm going to take profit. And if I'm wrong, the stop loss will get me out before I've lost that much money.
Yeah, so that was excellent, Tim. You don't even need those additional tools. Keep it very simple. You have the opportunity to enter on that first top of the touch of that red box, and you put your stop loss right beneath it, and you then are taking a risk position, and if it pays off and you don't get stopped off, then you might move to the top of the trend. Your first touch of take profit was $25. Let me comment. So you got those 3 levels of take profit there, okay? If you have a scaled position of, let's say you had 3 options or even 3 shares, you could sell the first one when it touches the first level. You could raise your stop loss right beneath it for the other 2. And then if it kept climbing, you could sell the second and the third. That's the way that works. All right, I'm going to take you guys into my chart, and I'm going to tell you what I think of Mara, and this applies for all the miners. Generally, loosely, based on what I'm saying, they do somewhat run together. It's all based on Bitcoin. So I'm going to show you guys what I see with the miners right now. Go ahead and you can share something while I pull up Mara.
No, I'm ultimately, I probably should look at the miners a lot more. Every now and then I'll look at Clean Spark. Of course, that's probably the one that most people are looking at. Some people would call it like the king of the miners, but definitely should be looking at Mara more frequently.
All right, guys, I like to keep it simple, and so I'm going to keep my words very carefully. Do you see the 4 yellow dots? I'm going to talk like I'm talking to Tim. You see the 4 yellow dots, Tim?
I do.
All right. Structural support in the last bull run are the 2 on the left. The 2 in the middle were structural resistance. Now we then broke through and we made a new local high in 2024. We came back, we tested this, we're on the weekly time frame, and we currently closed a candle above that, above 18. Now I've shared with the family before, when we're above 18, you kind of want to be in it. When you're beneath 18, you want to be bearish because it might be coming back and creating a new low. So to be very clear, we are on top of a historic structural area of significant support, and we've got a candle. Now, let's zoom in. That's one of the big picture views. Now, what do I want to see next to get excited about the miners? Well, we have this channel, right? And it's operated as some areas of resistance and some areas of support. We broke out of it. We got a flash down to 15. If you guys are on this page and you're with me in the Discord, I told everybody that we were going to find support at 15. Lo and behold, we did. Perfect opportunity to buy. That gives us the back test of the channel right now. Now that could be the total move. That could be the end of it. The 15 up to 18 would have made some decent money. I do like the fact that we tested the channel, back tested 15, and now we've come back to the channel. That looks a little bit like it's knocking on the door. I often say when it's knocking on the door, it wants to come in. I think it wants to come into the channel. So here's what we're looking for. We're looking for it to open a candle, right? Ideally next Monday, to open inside the channel for a move back up, right? This could be, and if you guys, let me jump back to the screens here. If you've traded Mara with me for a long time, I've often pointed out that the miners tend to precede Bitcoin a little bit. They tend to start running before Bitcoin pops. And so the fact that now Bitcoin's come up a little bit, and we could say that the miners have come up with it a little bit. But overall, the Mara is in an interesting place. When we get into Bitcoin as to what might happen there, if we were to get above and into that channel, it's all guns blazing higher. But do not, promise me, you will not jump ahead and get in early, because that channel could actually be extremely strong resistance as well. Any thoughts on that, Tim?
I think that was good analysis right there. I don't think I have anything to add. That was just solid advice right there.
All right. Larry, sup family. Appreciate you being here. Look at this. Stock Brother with the super chat. Thank you, Stock Brother. Stock Brother is great at penny stocks, guys. He actually has his own YouTube page. You can go over there and check him out. But I want you to check out Stock Brother and subscribe. He doesn't post a ton of videos. I'm always telling him to post a few more. But he's also a very busy man making money other ways. I also want you to go check out Tim's page, Investing Bros. Make sure that you subscribe there today. Okay, let's get into the big show. The big show is Bitcoin. I'm going to let you lead off, and then I'm going to bring in the tail end of Bitcoin. And there's some extremely interesting things in the chart, and it's going to be a super class. Bitcoin is actually one of the most interesting and predictable charts to read. It has a very strong pattern, and it's speaking to me right now, and it's the candles I'm looking at, and it's the volume. Two of my favorite indicators. I've always said price is truth. Momentum and volume confirm that truth, and so there's a story to be told there. Tim, kick us off. Where do you want to begin?
Yeah, there's a couple things I could go with here. I'm going to get a little more complicated, but make it a little bit, go quicker with this one. I've been watching on Bitcoin. Josh and I actually weeks ago both told you guys, watch out for the 56, 55K area. We ended up going to about 56.5, but you can see on this daily chart, that was squarely pretty much in the middle between the two take profit suggested areas here on Lux Algo. We've bounced back up, and here's where I can turn off Lux Algo. This is where it gets interesting. We were in this falling channel, and as Josh has told you guys several times, because I've heard him say it, falling channels more often not break to the upside. We had like a more macro falling channel, but a more aggressive, smaller one as well. When you come to lower time frames, and I'm watching this right now, there are things that are saying that potentially Bitcoin could go lower. I think the 4 hour is still bullish right now. There are certain time frames that still say that maybe we could go lower, but right now we're defending this red line. This red line, since back up here on April 8th, has been resistance until the last couple of days where we broke through it, and now I've tested it 1-2 times as support over the last couple of days. This is a positive move for Bitcoin. I think that is, if we lose this red level, now all of a sudden we can talk about 61,000 again. I think that there's an outside chance 61.7 or so does come back into the equation. We're looking at some smart trail concepts in here. 1 hour, I believe we also have, take profit coming down here. But what I'm kind of leaning towards is, unless something sparks a big negative narrative, we might just see a trickling on this red line until we hit our level, and then a move back to the upside. The only thing I will say, though, before I make anyone feel too bullish about Bitcoin, because everything I just said sounded bullish, I also am of the belief that I think the history is going to repeat itself. Didn't mean to draw that. And historically, Bitcoin trades kind of boring and sideways for a couple of months after the halving event. So I've kind of made a zone here. I'm not going to be surprised if Bitcoin stays relatively between 60,000 and 71,000, because these are the main areas of resistance and support. And when I look at the history of Bitcoin post-halvings, you guys can see here, even though I don't have it drawn, halving event happened right here, boring sideways action for a couple of months before we popped off. Come back to 2016, this is a little bit of a wider range, but again, sideways in a range. We trickled to the upside, but didn't set a new high for this rally until multiple months later. And of course, the one we had back in 2012, 2013, even though this one had the most bullishness, there still was a 3-month period of mostly boring action in prices until we finally went to new levels. There's a chance this time is different, but the fact that we've seen it happen all 3 times, and we're starting to kind of see it play out here as well, I'm not going to be surprised if we don't see a brand new high for Bitcoin until closer to August or September of this year.
Very good. I think that that's a very fair analysis, that the most reasonable expectation is that we're going to be range bound, especially if we're going to go higher. Now, the truth is that neither Tim or I know whether this thing could break out 10,000 to the upside. And, we are not attempting to be proactive to this. We are attempting to be reactive. Some of you guys, some people can overtrade and get wrecked trying to guess which direction. We're looking at the charts and we're guessing what they mean, but then we're waiting for them to confirm so that we can follow them. Someone asked me again about which indicator. What indicator is that? It's the Lux Algo indicator. There's a link in the top pinned comment, and I'm using the premium package. It's the middle package. And, these things have a cost. Years ago when I was first trading, even though I actually had a fair amount of money to trade with, I was actually trading with $500,000. I was so dang cheap, I didn't want to spend any money to learn. And one of the reasons I'm here on YouTube is to tell you guys about my experience, my journey, and what I learned along the way. And I learned that the 3 phases of being a successful trader are to learn, test, and then execute. And don't skimp on the learning. You people, some of you guys will drop $200,000 for a gender studies degree. When there's pretty much, people can get mad at me, male and female, man. That's kind of what I noticed. But some of you will drop hundreds of thousands of dollars for liberal arts degrees, and then you're afraid to actually grow your financial wealth and invest a little bit of money in some education. So, I bought the monthly package, or I bought the yearly subscription. It allowed me to save 40% on the premium. It's a nice little chunk of change, but it's been super helpful, and I'm sure it's made my money back. All right. Just let him finish. You're not saying anything. I'm not sure who that is for, but, some of the folks are going to be being very kind to us today. Mario Marvel, super chat. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Great live stream, fellows. I really appreciate that, guys. Okay, let me get into my thoughts. Here's someone said that Stock Up with Larry Jones actually had still managed to come into the chat and expertly interrupt us, that he was a pro at it. I believe the miners will trade sideways for a little longer like Bitcoin. I am not holding long or accumulate. I am not holding long or accumulating just now. I think that's very fair. Larry has very successfully traded the miners. And if I add to his thought there, what he's telling you is that even though there seems to have been this pullback and oversold condition, we've yet to get the confirmation that we're back on a bull run. And to be honest with you, him being a psychology and a momentum trader, he wants to see that. He wants to see the party get started. He wants to hear the rhythm of the music before he buys in. And some of you guys don't want to jump the gun. We're watching it. Everything I see in there is kind of bullish. 15 held, back testing 18. We want to see what it does next. If it breaks above, it's good to go. If it fails there, then back to 15 and even as low as 1250. All right, let's get into Bitcoin. I'm going to give you guys my overview of Bitcoin, and it's going to be pretty good. Let's dive into that. All right. I got two Bitcoin charts. We're going to go to a much higher time frame, and we're actually going to go to the 2-month time frame. And whenever I set about to teach something new, I get a little bit apprehensive because I want you guys to really learn this. Okay, so this is not the logarithmic view of Bitcoin. We're looking at the 2-month candles on Bitcoin because we were getting a much bigger time frame, much more condensed, larger view, much more global view. And here's the problem that we've got, right? We've got this gravestone doji, right? A gravestone doji is a candle with a very small body where the lowest price, the opening price, and the closing price are all clustered together, but it had a massive wick push up. We know that it went up to around 74,000, right under that, and it got rejected. Now, you cannot ignore these candles, especially when they appear at the top or bottom of a move. Now, at the moment, everybody knows that Bitcoin had an incredible push out of the winter, and we had these candles. Look at them. One, let me put it in a line here, guys. Give me a minute. Okay. Each candle body getting bigger than the next shows building momentum. So we know that we pushed up. We got to a recent high. And what did it give us? We got to look at the candle at resistance. So this is what's called resistance. Okay, we know that this is resistance because this was the last cycle's resistance. We opened and closed beneath resistance and got an extremely ominous gravestone doji. Okay, so now the big question that people are going to ask me, and I'm literally going to come back. I don't, a lot of switching back and forth, guys. I appreciate your patience with me always. I'm taking a moment to pause here because I gave that initial setup and it's extremely bearish. I'm going to go in and show you how volume relates to that candle that's relating to that trend line. And that's a huge thing to learn. You guys are going to love this. But I wanted to take a moment and pause and say, even though that candle is telling us that we've got some trouble ahead, each of these candles is 2 months. And that trouble could play out over 4 months. And we could, in the course of 2 weeks, right now, push up on Bitcoin all the way to 76 to 77,000, and it could do it in 1 to 2 days. Make no mistake about it. Now, I want to leave that on the table because I personally think that let's go back to what I was saying about the overall market being in a distribution phase. Distribution phase is being marked by high volatility of price action. We came from 74 down to 56. It wouldn't shock me if we vacillate back to the top of the range and even higher. But here's what we're going to have to be watching for. So this is a 4-month plan. The first 2 months of this plan is that gravestone doji, and that's bearish. The next 2 months of this plan, we're going to have to see how it plays out. If we end up getting another red candle on that second 2-month window that closes beneath that critical level, then it's time to get bearish because it's likely that we're going to go back to the golden pocket on Bitcoin. And where's the golden pocket on Bitcoin right now? Right at 48K. Now, I know that I gave you guys a mouthful. There's 2 things I want from you, right? If that helped you, if that's some good understanding that you needed on Bitcoin right now, I want you to throw a heart in the comments and I want you to hit the like on the video. We got a lot of people watching, but only 402 likes. Don't be stingy with me, guys. I thought we were having some fun here. All right, let's get back to the second most important part of this chart. Okay, now the second most important thing is for us to look at volume. Okay, and I want to tell this story with volume real quick. I'm going to briefly take off those highlights so we have no distractions. Okay. All right, so I'm saying that if this candle, if we push up here and we get another tall wick, and yet it turns into a rejection candle, I'm going to take that as a pretty large confirmation similar to this area here. I'm going to take that as a confirmation that we're going to go back to the golden pocket on Bitcoin at 48K. And then later on, we're going to have a test push back up. But here's something important to note about volume. Okay, Tim, so let's look at the big volume candles. So this is the largest volume candle on the entire chart. And what does it coincide with? Which candle does it coincide with?
That would be the top of the 2017 bull market.
I love this guy. He knows his charts. Yes. And so the fact that the highest volume candle was on the top of the 2017 candle, this is a 2-month candle, the highest volume at a push up, the top of the range, typically signals reversal. So the highest volume at the top of a move signals reversal. Lo and behold, we got a long-term reversal. Okay, now let's go over here. Let's look at the lowest volume. Okay, what did that coincide with, Tim?
The lowest volume? Well, you're talking about the big red one right there. I mean, that's the bottom.
The one to the left of it.
Yeah, right before the bottom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of these candles right here, I guess I may have presented that wrong. I'm confusing Tim. Both of these candles, okay, so this candle here, when the volume was low, was signaling that the downturn was coming to an end or very close to a reversal, okay? So this low volume said that selling pressure was getting exhausted. But it wasn't until the second highest candle after this one, okay, it wasn't until this candle that move, this high volume capitulation moment, signaled the reversal, signaled the end of the downturn and the beginning of buying. So right there, we're going to go through this a little bit more. Right there, you guys can see what a big role that these volume candles do to confirm, these volume bars do to confirm the candles at resistance. Okay, so we're going to come over here to the recent time. Now we've got this biggest green candle out of them all was pretty much signaling that the Bitcoin move, even though there was going to be more peaks ahead, this was the biggest exhaustion candle, and this was signaling this pullback that was coming over the next 6 months. So the high volume here at the top of this run signaled that there was going to be a pullback coming in the next couple months, and lo and behold, a massive pullback. Tim, do you remember the percentage? Was this a full 50%? Do you remember off the top of your head?
A little bit more than 50%, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's like 53%.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
58,
so,
okay.
Okay, so if you're following, big green candle signaled time to take profits. It's bigger than all the ones around it, right? Bigger than all the ones around it, signaling that this thing was going to drop 60%. Okay. Now, again, the second biggest candle here is this red one. And it coincides with what, Tim?
The bottom.
The bottom that we just had, 15.5. Okay? So the highest volume candle signaled the reversal. The highest volume candle here signaled the reversal. The highest volume candle here signaled the reversal. Okay. So you guys can see how important it is to study volume with candles at a trend line. Now, right now, this red candle that we got is the highest volume candle that we've had ever since this previous one. These two are the two biggest, right, in conjunction with each other, one signaling the bottom. And the question that we have to ask ourselves is this one here signaling the top? A high volume candle with a gravestone doji is a bearish confirmation of a potential move down. So let me go back to what I said right when I took my intermission break on Bitcoin. This candle here that we're in It's just begun. This is the beginning of May and June. This candle will not close until the end of June, which means that it could go all the way up. It could go all the way up to 80K, right? And then it could give us a tall wick. And it could then be telling us over the next 2 months that we're going to come back to 48. The only thing I want you guys to take away from, and I'm going to go onto the big screen here. The only thing I want you guys to take away from is to acknowledge the high volume that we had at the top of a move and that gravestone doji that said, hey, we got problems here. Doesn't mean they're coming this week. Doesn't mean they're coming next week. But we are likely to get a power move in the trade range that Tim gave us. Okay, we're in a trade range. We can easily move back to the top of that range, which would coincide with my belief that there's the opportunity for the S&P and the NASDAQ to go back to all-time highs, because the NASDAQ and Bitcoin are moving together. But I'm also telling you that S&P 500 move, I'm really only expecting it to be a 30-day window, and then we're going to get back into even choppier waters than we experienced today. Whew. Tim, your reaction?
I think it's interesting. A lot of stuff there to chew on. Volume is, yeah, like I am a big proponent of, you got to know what volume is communicating to you. There's times where volume on that macro scale he was just showing you, you're looking at peaks as the great reversals. And I think that's a beautiful thing you're looking at there. When you get to smaller time frames, there's times where to look at volume where it's like it's the confirmation of a big movement. So volume is definitely something that people, if you guys are looking at to study more into technical analysis to add to your tool bag, I would call it, learning how to read volume the way Josh kind of broke it down for you right there on the macro charts, and then getting into some micro charts as well and watching how volume works in both reversal situations and confirmation of a trend situations. That'll help you a lot in learning when to feel confident in the market and when to take the profit or buy.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Tim and I are not here to show you what we know. I'm only here for this 1 hour show to try to teach you guys what I know, and hopefully it wasn't too burdensome. We did get 100 more likes, but man, I sure would like this to hit 1,000 likes before we're done, which means that some of you guys got to kick in with that like generosity. Why do I want the likes? It pushes it to more viewers, so that'd be appreciated. Adrian Howard, thank you so much for the super chat. Couldn't break the money moves plays down any easier. I really, really appreciate that. That motivates me. Now I'm getting asked about Tesla. And then even though I wanted to do a lightning round of crypto, and Tim and I might need to come back and do more than 1 day a week. You know, right now we're good with this, but I feel like, oh man, another 100 likes. Thank you guys for getting those likes up. I appreciate that. I'm going to do two. I'm going to do Tesla real quick because, you know, a little love for Tesla didn't hurt nobody. And I'm going to talk about a popular crypto stock. Real quick commentary on Tesla. I mentioned the other day, Tim, that the FUD dial of massive FUD had been sort of turned down when we were down at 140. Tesla was a piece of crap. It wasn't worth anything. Dump your bags. It's going under $100. And now all of a sudden we're getting, you know, a little bit more of a bull story. You know, we went from 140 up to 200. And the big bull story, if people don't know exactly what that's about, it's the fact that Elon was over in China and he said that he was going to try to launch robo-taxis over there. And that's not the most important thing because Elon loves to talk. We like to see follow through. China, there was some commentary from some folks in China saying that they were amiable to this idea, right? And so, I mean, hey, personally, if I had one of the smartest companies unleashing one of the most innovative world technologies in my country, I would say, yes, please. Can I have another? Let's get the robots kicking over here as well. So let's just jump in. You have any commentary, Tim, on the Tesla right now?
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things that it was one of the charts we broke down my first day here. And I don't want to tell people to throw out news and do nothing but look at charts. But I think I remember that we discussed while I was here on your channel, hey guys, this level, this golden pocket around 145 is a very interesting bottom formation. And that if they hit that level, you should feel good about buying. And sure enough, we bounced back up. So, you know, sometimes the charts just don't lie at all. Sometimes you got to learn how to tune out noise and just say, well, what is the money saying? Money was saying we were oversold at 145. and we had a nice bounce back.
Yeah, and to build on what Tim's saying is I pointed out a number of times that the conditions surrounding that 140 price were only similar to some of the worst conditions that Tesla had seen in the past. The 101 price, and then we're talking way back in the day, back when it was at around $15 or $25. So the conditions were rare, and you want to align your buys with those blood in the street, rare conditions. We talked about the extreme bearishness of the puts to call. Mm-hmm. Right now, I looked at the PCR for Tesla today, and it favors calls. It's actually below 1, and so you want to keep that in mind. I just want to thank everybody for all the generous super chats today. If I missed you, I'm so sorry. Leonardo Faustino, super chat from Leonardo Faustino. Josh, Tesla closed below 179.20. Will it go lower? Great live, a lot of great information. All right, well, let's dive into that Tesla chart, and I will give you my thoughts and opinions on it. I'm going to just give you guys the view that largely, oh, there's that little yellow line. All right, let's get to, we're at 2 month. Hey, let's pause on the 2 month right now. That's an incredible tail. That's an incredible tail. Matter of fact, let's just stop and examine that for a minute. The only other tail that's similar to that is these bad boys back here, okay? Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about this for a minute. Let's have a conversation, family. These incredible tails represent 4 months of extreme volatility. 4 months of extreme volatility that were followed up with 4 more months of some of the biggest strength that Tesla had ever seen. Matter of fact, for sure, this 2 month candle was the biggest stretch of price action to the upside that Tesla had ever seen. And so look at that. We got another one. Now, here's what I want you to warn you guys about. We don't know whether or not this will repeat, but I am telling you that we're in a choppy environment, and I'm going to tell you guys where the line in the sand is. But if we did anything like we did here, it is technically possible that we could come all the way back to like 145 or 150 and make another gigantic tail here, and then get our push up closer to the mid-year, June or July. And why would Tesla push up later in the year? Let me go back to this, guys. Be patient with my slow transitions. Why would it go up later in the year? Okay, Tesla's going to do well with a lower interest rate. So Tesla is going to get bought up when people truly believe that we are going to get interest rate cuts this year, because housing, cars, certain products are going to do way better when the cost of borrowing goes down. And so June, July, I'm not saying that we don't go up right now. If the markets want to go up, like the S&P 500, like I'm saying, and we'll have confirmation at the end of this week, and I'll let you know. If they want to go up, they'll take Tesla up with them. Where will they go? 200 to 212. That's the range that I think it will go. Then we could have another extremely bearish window of time, another 60 days of violence, and come all the way back to 145. No guarantee that we'll do what we did before. What I can't give any guarantees, but where my confidence does lie is that 2 month candle I just showed you was extremely bullish. That giant tail is extremely bullish, and I like to respect the candles, especially when they're positioned where they're positioned. So Tim, and I'm using you as a sounding board today, what is the significance of that candle in particular being where it's at?
Yeah, it just communicates a lot of buying pressure. When you see those long tails below, the same thing when you see it above. If you see a massive wick above or those tails, that's just a lot of selling pressure. So I think it's too early to say with 100% confidence that signals the bottom, but it is something that bears should be mindful of, to say, we just ran into a massive wall of bulls who are ready to gobble up at that level.
I love it. We only have like 3 minutes. We're going to go a little bit longer, even though I did tell Tim, let's keep it under an hour. Okay, I'm going to take you a little into Tesla here, and I'm just going to tell you, here's what it communicates to me. Okay, so just let's learn together, guys. Okay, we know that this was a significant area of resistance, this $300 range. Why do we know that? Rejection, 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 and rejection. Possibly even rejection there. So a ton of rejection at the roughly $280 to $300 level. Then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 solid months of going down. And so a very big wick after a clearly defined downturn is a very bullish signal. In addition to what Tim was saying, the wick and the location matter. And in this case, having half a year going down and having such a large tail after almost 6 months of a downturn, it is a very bullish signal. Okay, let's go to the more near time interval so that you guys can see what I think will happen very soon. And you know what? I was going to go into one more stock, but you know what? I'll leave the last stock of the day for Tim only, and then I'll wrap up the show. Okay, guys. So here's what I see, and we're on the daily time frame. And matter of fact, let me start with the weekly time frame. And you know, all this little bit of slow moving, I appreciate you guys being patient with me. All right. So I want you to understand that this area here that we're in of 177 is significant. Okay. When we broke above it, we gapped above it. Rejection, rejection, rejection. This was support. Back here, this was support. This turned into support. When we rejected, we went much lower. Okay. So 177 is a very significant area for us to be watching. And now we have in the past a couple times right here in particular, we've wicked beneath 177. These are 1 week candles. So we've crashed beneath 177, but it got bought back up. It got bought back up right here. Personally, I believe that we are likely to crash. We may have a spell beneath 177, and I would be very favorably disposed to buying if it came down to 164 and we got some volume surge. That would be your safest entry for Tesla right now. Let's go to the daily time frame. I'll make my final point. You guys who've been on this page with me for a while know that these descending channels, they break to the upside. We're in a beautiful descending channel, and it's come down to where? A strategic level of support. Descending channel, strategic level of support. If we get a nice open candle above this 187, so we open a candle above this descending channel on the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday, okay? I don't know that might be next week. Tesla can definitely make that move. So right where the finger's pointing, we get an open here, then my target becomes 212 with a lot more confidence. So I gave you two scenarios, watching for a move, an open and close above 187, watching for it to open beneath 177 on shorter time frames like the 4-hour chart for a flash dip down to 164 where I buy with a lot more confidence. Ultimately, I do think that we are going to make some moves like that. So that's my opinion. Let me get back to the big screen. Let me know, guys, in the comment section if you like this detailed analysis, because I'm working off your guys' feedback. It's what's driving what I'm giving you guys. I'm going to end with one. Me and Tim are going to continue to teach the Lux Algo indicator, and Tim, I don't know, you can get it geared up to go into the website. I wanted to show people that with their own eyes. There is the link in the top pinned comment that can actually take you there, and you guys can see what it is you're choosing. Let me know when you got that set up, Tim.
Yeah, I'm here on the website right here.
Take just
I can run people through stuff.
A brief 40 seconds to do that.
Yeah, ultimately, guys, it's won awards. It has a lot of different things. Lux Algo is the #1 trading tool on TradingView. They've won rewards. Here's the cool thing: when you buy it, 30-day risk-free guarantee. So you can buy it, test it for 30 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. It's no risk to you whatsoever. Few people take that option, though, because they end up making their money back in the first 1 or 2 trades, depending on how much you use. So there's just so many cool tools, not even just learning more about it from me and Josh, but when you get onto Lux Algo, there's so many tools to teach you step by step how to use each and every individual indicator. So you definitely want to take advantage of that. So many different videos. You get to be in a very large Discord group where not only do they continue to educate you, but there's experts in there that post their trade setups. So you even watch and go after those ones. Ultimately, though, everyone probably is asking this question: How much is Lux Algo? Well, when you buy an annual package, you can get upwards of 50% off on this one. Although for now, I really don't recommend anyone purchase the Ultimate. It has a thing called back testing in it that I don't even really use. So what you're really looking at is what both Josh and I have, and that is the premium version. This comes with the signals and overlays. It comes with a very powerful oscillator. Then in the future, I'll show you guys. It's my #1 way to know when to enter trades. So whether it's short or long, I love the oscillator. You'll also get access to everything you get in the essential package, where this is where you get the price action concepts. That's the thing we talked about last week when we were looking at order blocks, ultimate levels of support and resistance. That you get for the cheaper level. But again, $40 a month. If you buy a whole year up front, $40 a month for the premium version. If you buy the monthly, it's closer to $70. Again, if you want to test it for a month, and you don't risk in a single dollar. You can get your money back if you want. But I guarantee you, if you get this and you follow the instructions and you look at some of the things we're teaching you, you'll make $70 back in the first month easily. And it'll only make you want to go on longer and longer and longer with it.
Okay. Thank you, Tim, for that overview. All right, guys. We were asked quite a bit earlier about coin. And since we only got into Bitcoin, none of the altcoins. I'm going to let you give some thoughts on Coinbase. This is all off the cuff. First of all, I just want to thank Larry. He gave me a $25 super chat. I appreciate you being here, man. I appreciate you chiming in and being part of our conversation. It means a lot to me. And there's been a lot of questions about render, but let's try very quickly, Tim. I'm not going to interrupt you. This is your moment. This is your unadulterated, uninterrupted moment. Coinbase, render, turn it back to me. I won't say a peep, and then I'll close out the show.
All right, here we go. So before I go too much further in with Lux Algo, just looking at support and resistance levels, we have a descending wedge right now. Just like descending channels, these more often than not break to the upside. We're cooling off here, but that's something I'm keeping an eye on. Now, I have these drawn even before we've rejected on some pretty major zones historically of resistance. So we're kind of coming back in here. Can we keep this as more of support is the question. Let's take a look at what Lux Algo is saying, though, right now. We are under a sell order from way back here. However, we've already hit the take profit once down here. So could we come back down and do it again? That is potentially in the equation. You guys can see here, sell order number 3. We hit our take profit. We bounce back up into an order block, a great level of resistance. Now we're falling. This is all the daily chart. Let's see what the oscillator is saying here from Lux Algo. This is that oscillator I'm telling you about. Oh, man. So what I'm looking at right now, it's sideways. This is communicating sideways. But if we play our cards right and this money flow, which is this red wave or the green wave, starts to tick to the upside, that could be the support that we're looking for to feel bullish again on coin. Ultimately, again, we're in a very bullish formation right now. We've hit our take profit. We don't necessarily have to come back down to these levels. I'll do this before I leave. Let's just look at the 4-hour. Where we have actually more bullishness going on here. I like the 4-hour to potentially signal that we should make a move to the upside here. We're under a buy signal currently, if I can take that down. Under a buy signal. We did reject on a weak order block right here, but when this breaks and moves to the upside, we're definitely seeing these take profits up here closer to 262 at the next order block. I'm not certain when and how it'll get there, but everything that I'm looking at now from Lux Algo, I'm not really seeing the bearishness. I'm seeing sideways prediction, but I'm seeing the potential for moves to the upside, breaking out of this formation, and then ultimately just back to the basics in this formation. If we do break and we get a push up somewhere over here, this should give us back up to the area of 300, 287, back to the highs we had back here in March of 2024.
And would you take us into some thoughts on render, please, Tim?
Render is one I'm talking actually a bit about with my community. It's playing some cat and mouse with us. I did put a suggested in my trading group. You guys are gonna get access to a thought that I gave to my trading group. Right now, we're flirting with this one. This is gonna be, I want to see how daily closes. If this daily candle closes, we could reject. Earlier today, this was a breaker block. I put a trade set up way up here for a potential short, back up to $11.52. Earlier, this was, let me see. Did I turn this? No, it's on. Okay. I think there's an outside chance that we could see some bullishness on render shoot up here to 1152 and then come back down towards 1027. What we're watching, though, to feel good about a shorting opportunity is going to be on the 4-hour chart. I'm going to turn these things off, but I just want you guys to see the oscillator. And again, I'm going to educate you guys on this in the future, but right now, there's a heavy amount of bullishness in the money flow, and this light green section is communicating excessive buyers, meaning a lot of people right now have been buying render on the 4-hour chart. But just like a bubble will pop and fall down, a lot of times when you see the excessive buyers or sellers, as soon as they leave, it's a great opportunity to jump in and go the opposite direction. In this case, we're still technically positive, but we're seeing the reversal flashes coming in. When these excessive buyers leave, that's going to be an amazing opportunity to enter a short on render. And then depending on where we are in the market, will give me my answer as to where I'm going to take my profit. Somewhere between $10 to $9 more than likely, though.
Thank you, Tim. I thought that was really good. I liked, in particular, for render, the money flow. It showed that it was actively in a move up. And so, you know, we're going to get in more to this, but I want to go slowly. I actually spent 6 months with Lux Algo before even talking about it, because I wasn't going to present anything to people that I myself didn't like and love. And on top of it, the challenge is going to be, you know, Tim has used this longer. We got to make it simple. We got to make it simple, and we're going to do that. I promise you guys. I just want to thank everybody for showing up today. I want you to subscribe to Tim's page, Investing Bros. And if you want to follow along with the Lux Algo, there's a link for that in the top pinned comment. And if you just want to continue on this page and you're new, then hit that subscribe and join the Stock Josh fam. Tim, thank you today. I'm glad to hear that your beautiful baby is doing well, abounding. You know, I appreciate you sharing with us a little bit at the beginning, your faith and where you turned. You know, we're going to get that help, but we're going to also ask the Lord for a little bit of help as well. And the family loves to support you. Thank you for being a guest today. Thank you guys for all joining me. Hit that like on the way out. Peace and blessings. Take care. Talk to you later.